sorry.
Just time to let you go potty. Just kidding.
Yeah,
I need
right?
your phone because
sorry.
I need to look at your questions.
Okay.
Okay, let's see.
So I think we did the new clients.
Yes.
We're good on the new
All right.
clients.
So,
it's tripping me out because I'm like going that way.
I know. All right. So several of you asked about her parties. I think everybody thinks she's like literally going to a home party every single day or week. And so what I've heard, that may not be the case.
It's definitely not the case. Okay. So what was a real eye-opener for me was when did we start with Tracy Casey? February? I think it was February. So we were challenged. Jess and I were part of a group called Accelerated Leadership, and we were challenged to book 8 parties in 1 month. And quite frankly, that gave me so much anxiety because I've never had 8 parties in 1 month. But I think a lot of times we have that word party in our head and we think it has to be like a home party, but it's not always a home party. What I realized when that term 8 parties came up and I was going through and I was like, okay, well, I need to have 8 parties. I went back and I realized that in 2 years, I only had 34 hostesses. And that's not really that many when you think about having sales the way that I have, having only 34 hostesses. I don't have, like, at each of those parties, I didn't have like 25, 30 people. There was like 3, 4, maybe 5. But I don't do a lot of parties. I'm going to be really honest. I don't. I have
not from lack of effort.
Not from lack of effort. I ask.
Yes.
I ask. But the one thing that I will say that I am a firm believer in is you can't ask people to do parties if you're not doing your own parties.
Amen.
So I do a lot of my own parties at my own house. I have open houses. When I don't have a party, I create a party. I do, like I've already mentioned, I do at least 1 event a month. And an event is a party, right? I mean, that is, here, let me oh no, okay. So an event is a party, and I do fundraisers. I do a lot of follow-up, and follow-up goes into a party. So even though I'm not doing your traditional home parties, I'm doing my sales more through following up and creating my own opportunities like events and open houses at my house. But honestly, I haven't had a home party since November. That was my last, November 2nd was my last home party. And it wasn't because I didn't ask, and it wasn't because, for lack of trying. I've had home parties on the books, but people have canceled. But when I don't have something, I create something myself.
So I think that's a big thing I think that we all need to remember is that successful people probably have more what in our brains we think is like failures, but it's really not. It's just like, okay, a failure in Scentsy would be like, oh, she canceled on me. So a lot of consultants would go, oh, this person canceled. That means I have nothing on my books. So obviously that's not the case with you.
No,
when just in case I didn't cover this, it's my fault. Annual sales award consists of 30,000 or more in PRV in a Scentsy fiscal year, calendar year, which is basically May 1st through April 31st, right?
April 30th.
30th, thank you. So that's pretty much an average of $2,500 a month, okay? Yep. So give or take, Michelle always hits at least $2,000. Maybe in 2 years, she's hit like $1,600 in 3 of those months that didn't quite, but it was because of passing parties, over to hostesses or just a lower, struggle. She was out of town in Africa last year for half the month.
June, I still hit 2,000 last year. July, I missed 2,000 because I gifted a party.
Yes.
Okay. And I do that too. That's one of the ways that I get team members is gifting parties.
Okay. And you still hit $2,000 generally.
So yeah, most of the months I do.
So it shows that there's enough business out there that it's, if your mind is open and knowing that not just focusing on one party, like I got a party on the book and then it get canceled and then you go, oh, I guess I got nothing now. So how does your brain, what do you do when that day happens, when you had something on the book and you were generally banking that at least was a qualified party with that was tallying that that's 200 minimum towards my 2000? What goes through your mind in order to, does that like, oh, that's $200 out of my PRV of the month and I'm done? Or obviously that's not the case. So how does Michelle's brain work with that?
So usually so I had two situations happen recently. In April was the last month for annual sales. And I went into the month at just over 3,000 PRV short for it. And my very first party, Amanda, who is this amazing woman that I met at an event here in Providence, she had a $1,300 party and she was just like amazing at just sharing and I was like, in my brain, I was like, $1,300, that's so cool. But then I offered it to her. And I was like, you should totally join because you're clearly good at this. And so we used part of it with the hostess help earn a kit. So she used part of it to earn her kit for free. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of it I gave over to her and she put it in. So that was super awesome for Amanda. And I was super excited for her because she just worked so hard and she so deserved it. But that was like that much less that I had to find. So what did I do? Well, I started making phone calls and I started following up with more people. And I would ask for referrals. And I would say, if somebody was close to a qualifying party, I would say, hey, do you know anybody else? You're super close, and I made it happen by just asking. Mm-hmm. And in May, just like a week ago, I had somebody cancel. Okay, so let me back up. Jess asked me what I do at the beginning of every month. I typically like to have, and I think this was one of Cindy's questions too, like how far in advance do I book my parties? I will say in May, I'm trying to book for June. In June, I'm trying to book for July. So I always try to do 1 month in advance because I like to do what is called front loading. Because if something cancels, I like to have something already in its place. So this is kind of going back to what Jess is saying, like what happens if something cancels? What do you do? Well, I already have stuff in the works. And so that happens, but I think outside of the box. So if I had a party on May 19th and it canceled, I would host an open house on May 19th and, or spend a little extra time following up on May 19th and filling that Scentsy time that I already had allotted with something else Scentsy. So, but back in April, I had this humongous goal and I started asking people like, how do you get your PRV? Like, asking for other people's advice. And, and I realized that we all kind of just do it the same way. We all kind of just follow up with our customers and we have parties and, I just do it. I have more people. Like if one person, I'd probably follow up with like 50 people a week. I'm going to be really honest, about 50 people a week.
And is that like text messaging or?
Always text messaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is easy. It's fast and.
I don't like talking on the phone. I like talking on the phone to people I know. And there are some people that only will call. And so, but they're usually, I shouldn't say this. They're usually like my older customers, my older clients. I have one lady that I will drive. She lives almost in Boulder City. And I drove to her house last week to give her a light bulb because her husband passed away and her kids are older and they moved out of the house. And so she likes me to call and come over because that's like her connection. And so I do that for her. So there are people that I do that, but generally I text message.
So I heard a lot of generosity actions that Michelle does. So I will say, that's one of our core values, but that law of attraction of, you get what you put out there tenfold is, that selflessness of seeing that Amanda earned and worked so hard to have such a successful party. And Michelle saw that instead of thinking just about herself of like, oh, that's $1,300 towards my annual sales goal. She realized that's not really mine. That's for, let me help her be successful. And that generosity and selflessness Kane gave her that attraction of to come back in the end, and she still ended up pulling off over $3,000. And here's a little secret: one of my sister-in-laws called me like the last day and wanted a brick, and I was like, oh my gosh, I already closed my last order, so I knew she had an order going in, and I was like, can you order something for me? And she actually already hit her goal, and I was thinking, I was